Thank you, Hala, for the wonderful introduction. Hello, everyone. My name is Ramya. I work with databases on a regular basis. Today, I will be presenting on MongoDB with Python, covering its terminologies, use cases, and code implementation in this our quick start series. As Hala mentioned, this is our fourth and final session of the series. Previously, in three sessions, Hala and Karen presented about SQL, SQLite, and Firebase. If you are attending for the first time, you can watch previous sessions on our Menhu Code YouTube channel. And this is our today's agenda. What we are covering on these topics, overview of our previous sessions, difference between SQL and NoSQL examples, its real-time applications and use cases, terminologies of NoSQL and SQL, data types in MongoDB, overview of Mongo Shell and Compass, CRUD applications with MongoDB and Python programmatically. Now, in our previous sessions, in session one, Hala presented on database and the relational database and what are data models, RDBMS and designing and examples of RDBMS. In the session two, followed by SQLite, Hala and Karen presented on its syntaxes with Python, GUI software and installation, and sample database and SQL data types, SQL essential commands, and code implementation. And session three on Firebase. It is one of the NoSQL database. Its syntaxes with Python was covered via Google Colab, and implementation was demonstrated. And it is NoSQL with Firebase, use cases of Firebase, and essential SQL commands was covered in previous three sessions. Next, what are the difference between NoSQL and SQL? NoSQL, it is a non-structured query language, whereas SQL is structured query language. And NoSQL is used for non-relational database, whereas SQL it is for relational databases. And NoSQL is suitable for unstructured data, whereas SQL is suitable for structured data. In NoSQL, the data is stored in key value pairs and they're documents based, whereas in SQL, it is table based structure. And in NoSQL, it is dynamic schema, means it has no any fixed schema, whereas in SQL, it has predefined schema. And this is NoSQL, it is a horizontal scaling. What is horizontal scaling? For the existing, we are going to add more machines to the existing pool, which is already existing infrastructure. We are going to add more machines to that. That is horizontal scaling when it comes to NoSQL database. What is in SQL? It is basically vertical scaling, means adding more resources such as CPU, memory, RAM, adding more of those to the existing machine. That is the difference, one of the major difference between NoSQL and SQL. Here I have basically listed the main differences we are going to use in a regular basis. These are the main differences. And now, examples of SQL and NoSQL RDBMS. If you see here in the SQL, SQLite, MySQL, Postgres, Oracle, SQL Server, they are all RDBMS software systems with which we use SQL language to communicate with databases. And these are the examples of NoSQL: MongoDB, Firebase, Cassandra, Redis, Amazon DynamoDB, and Couchbase. Next, these are the use cases and examples in which MongoDB is implemented. Some of the real-time applications we can see is eBay, MetLife, Shutterfly, Aadhaar, etc. And even MongoDB can be used in gaming applications. Examples are EA, FIFA, online games, and they are used in content management system, full stack web applications, and products data management systems. And even for mobile apps, it is used for used with MongoDB. And for real-time analytics, its implementations in IoT applications and it can be used in combo with SQL databases. For an for an application, if you are using SQL, you can also use NoSQL. And now coming to terminologies in NoSQL. Here I'm going to demystify a couple of terminologies in which we use in MongoDB. When you visualize MongoDB and SQL, database would be same in NoSQL and SQL, whereas collections are same as table in SQL. And you call it document in NoSQL, it is nothing but a row or a record in SQL. And when it comes to field or key, I will show it in a minute in a screenshot. Field or key, they are nothing but column in SQL. Now, this is how the structure of data looks in SQL and NoSQL. If you see here, these are the column names: ID, first name, gender, mem type, coach, batch. They are all fields in the NoSQL, MongoDB. And coming to data types in MongoDB. These are the most commonly used data types and supported in MongoDB. Of course, some of these are mainly used in many databases and programming languages. And there are specific to MongoDB, such as object ID. It helps to store documents ID, unique ID for each document, nothing but a row or record. And here you can see the example, how it looks. As a note, we can pass arrays as a key to the field. Even dictionaries, we can pass it as a key. Dictionaries, we can pass it as a value to the key. And now, these are the ways and tools we can communicate with MongoDB, such as Mongo Shell, MongoDB Compass, MongoDB Atlas, and with backend language such as Python, we are going to work with Python today, and Jupyter Notebook, PyCharm, or VS Code, or Atom. These are IDEs we can use with. And these are the installation resources I have provided here, wherein you can find here for MongoDB server, which is a community server available. And it is, you can use it. It's not a paid version, so it is available for you to download. It doesn't take much of time. I will go through how to install it. And Mongo Shell, it is available at this mongodb.com try download shells. And MongoDB Compass community, this is again an open source software which can be installed, which I'm going to show you to help you visualize the database collections documents we are going to create today. And for Python installation, we can find here, we are going to use Python with MongoDB. Obviously, we need to install the Python. If you have it Python readily installed, it's very easy to get started, and I will give you the clear instructions on how to do it as we go along. Now, what are the tools we are going to use for today? We are going to use Jupyter Notebook to execute Python scripts instead of using IDE. I can give a quick overview of how we can run these Python scripts via IDE. And for Jupyter Notebook installation, we can again install it in two ways, using pip or Anaconda. If you have already installed Python, it's quite very easy to install using pip. If you're on Mac OS, pip3 install notebook. If you are using PC, we can say pip install notebook. And then you have to type in Jupyter Notebook that gets opened up in default browser of your machine. Yeah. And these are the coding prerequisites we need for our today coding session. And after installing the tools I mentioned above, we need to keep MongoDB server on. And when you turn on the MongoDB server, obviously it will expect either shell or compass to be opened. So here we are using Compass today to help visualize the data. And then we need to keep the server on for Jupyter Notebook. That helps us to open the Jupyter Notebook. Keep the database server on before we use any tools open. Next, yeah. This is the code screenshot I have provided, how to import the module called PyMongo. It is a driver that helps us communicate with MongoDB using Python scripts. We have another module called Mongo engine, but it is like if you have heard of ORM, it's a ODM layer within object documents mapper. Here today we are going to use with PyMongo. And we are going to work on the application called CRUD operations. This is the operations we use commonly in applications like full stack applications or content management systems or products data management system, even for API developments. These are the main 4 operations. We use it quite commonly. And we are going to see how we use these operations with MongoDB today. This is the screenshot to create new document, nothing but a row in MongoDB. And this is the code screenshots for how we fetch documents from MongoDB. Here, as the name suggests, this is when you use find method with this notation or this notation, it will help us fetch all the documents present in the MongoDB database. And whereas if you see find underscore one method, it will let us fetch the specified document as the name suggests. And this is to update documents. As the name suggests in the methods, update underscore one to update one document. If we use update underscore many to update many documents by passing the regex. This is the code screenshot we will be executing shortly. And this is for deleting. Create, read, update, delete, CRUD operations. The delete, again, the same thing, delete underscore one to delete one document, delete underscore many to delete many documents. Quite self-explanatory with these methods in MongoDB. And now this is the MongoDB shell I was mentioning, another way to communicate with MongoDB. This is an alternative to the option 1. We are going to use it today, that is with Jupyter Notebook and Compass. And this is MongoDB Compass. This will help us visualize the database. This is the database and this is the collection and these are the documents, which are row or column, which are the row or record. If you are coming from JavaScript background or if you are familiar with JSON, it's quite easy to follow the MongoDB. Either way, it's quite easy to learn. And now, yeah, any questions before we start coding walkthrough? Okay. You can find the code for today's session. Yeah. And I'm going to paste it in the chat. Okay. So now before we start coding, we have to keep the server on. That is to keep the server on, we have to do sudo mongod if you are on Mac OS. If you're on PC, that is Windows, you can say mongod. Say this is how we do it. I have started the server. This is how we do it. When you type in sudo mongod, it will prompt you to enter the password of your machine. When you enter it, it will let you do it. And once you start the server, it will expect you to start either the shell or compass. And today we are going to use the compass. This is the one. Today, MongoDB underscore workshop. This is the one sample one I created for this workshop before. And this is what I was mentioning. These are the fields, nothing but they are columns in SQL. And one of another good feature, what I like about Compass is you can export the data. When you say this, export the data, select all the outputs, you can export it to either JSON and CSV. It comes in very, very handy. And now, this is the one, using this where I have generated this data, and we are going to use next one, that is this, to demonstrate. And one point to remember is when we create a connection object with the MongoDB server, and we create a database, and we create a collection, it expects at least one record to be inserted for us to visualize documents and collections in the MongoDB server. Now, let us execute this one. I have installed PyMongo. This is how you install PyMongo. To install Mongo, you have to say pip install PyMongo. And before this, I will show you one more thing, how to install Jupyter Notebook. You can say pip3 install Jupyter Notebook. And once you have installed it, you have to say this. If you want to open it in any specific browser, you have to say this command. And if you want to open it in your default browser, you can simply say Jupyter Notebook. And once if you give these tags, then you can copy this one and paste it in any browser of your choice. And next, I have installed it, pip install PyMongo. So I'm going to say import, and yeah, and at least one record needs to be inserted for us to visualize in the compass. Yeah, I just created the variable and not yet inserted. These are the data sets I have done, and test documents to execute. Yeah, and now insert one. I'm going to insert one document, that is this one. Yeah, now we are able to visualize. Yeah, here it is. This is what we inserted right now. First name, Roldoro. That is this one. And one more tip about here is ID. If we don't specify it, MongoDB will insert the ID using the object ID data type. I will show that in a minute. And next, I'm going to insert more than one document, that is using this docs, in which I have mentioned the list of dictionaries. Here, if you notice, I have not mentioned ID. So here it is going to insert these documents with object ID data type. So yeah, if you don't specify ID, it's going to insert unique ID using object ID data type. Next, I'm going to insert a couple more test documents. Yeah. Now, this is create operation of CRUD. Next, read operation. We are going to fetch documents. That is, I'm going to fetch one specific document that is Roldoro, that is with the ID Roldoro. Here we have to pass in the ID. Next, we are going to fetch more than one document. Because it returns the object, we have to iterate through in order to visualize it. So I will iterate through the results. Yeah. And if you want to limit to only 3, we can do this and iterate through that result set. So only 3 we are going to fetch it now. Yeah, that is the fetching part of CRUD operation. Next, to delete operation. Generally, we don't delete until and unless when we are doing any testing or things like that. So when we are deleting, performing this operation, we need to be careful. Unless we are sure that we are not going to need it, then we can do that. So here for this demo purpose, I'm going to execute this one once again. Yeah, okay. So the document with the ID 14. Yes, I'm going to insert it. So it's gone. Yeah. And next, we can even pass in the regex if we want to delete any specific document. Here I'm saying, okay, I want to delete the document which starts with T, the first name that starts with T. So I'm passing that one to here in order to perform it. Yeah, I should have shown that data before it got deleted. Okay. And here we need to be very, very careful. This is when you say delete many and you pass in this empty dictionary, it's going to delete every document in the collection. Now, this is the delete part of the CRUD operations. Next, update part of the CRUD operations. Here, you can store, okay, which part of the document you want to update it. That I have stored it in doc_update. And you want to update with what? That is stored in another variable using the regex. First name, I want to change from Dio to Diora. So I'm going to update this document, one document. So I'm using update_1. So yeah, before I refresh, I can show it to you. You can see in the document, this one, the first name is Dio. And the another document, it has, okay, one document, it has got Dio, and I'm going to refresh it. It becomes Diora. It got updated. Next, I want to update more than one document. It's the same thing. The part of the document which I want to update, store it in a variable. And with what you want to update, store it in another variable and pass them as arguments to the update_many method. This one, let me run it. Yeah. Now, I'm saying the first name starting with A, I want to update them, update their coach with Wilson. Before I refresh, I can show you the name starting with A, that is here Audrey and Alice. Audrey, mm, coach, okay, that was from another one, fine. Manager, yeah. So, yeah. And before I refresh, I can say for Audrey, manager was Jack. It should be Wilson now. Yeah. Okay, it got inserted. And this is one of the another example. You can say its schema is dynamic. It doesn't have a fixed schema. Uh, Another name with a Alice. You can see here. And this document, it doesn't have coach. Whereas these two documents, the first name starting with Alice and Audrey, they have got another field got inserted, that is manager. So this is how it is flexible with respect to having the fields or column names. And now I can show this execution through Python file if any of you following along and wants to use Python file to insert it. Yeah. Now we used Jupyter Notebook with which written the Python scripts to communicate with MongoDB. Now we are going to communicate with MongoDB using Python, that is .py file. Here it's more or less it's same. You are importing the PyMongo module. That is what it is, a binder between the Python and MongoDB to communicate with database. Using this module, we can communicate with MongoDB via Python. And this is to connect to the server and creating the database. It is already existing. So to that, we are going to add this new collection, nothing but a table, and at least one record needs to be passed in for us to visualize database and documents going to be inserted in the compass. So I'm going to run this. Yeah. Yep, there you go. It got inserted. So we saw two flavors of inserting data into the MongoDB database using Jupyter Notebook or IDE. Here I have used VS Code IDE to insert with to insert to the MongoDB database. Yeah, and we can also drop until and unless we are very sure. I can give you one real-time scenario that, okay, in the real-time scenario, we are moving from dev environment to production environment. So I will make sure we are not storing any of this kind of test data to the production environment. In that case, we need cleaning. So then I would perform this kind of operations like deleting the table, collection nothing but table. Yeah. So if we are going to do this, it's going to get deleted. I can show that. Here I'm going to uncomment it and I'm going to execute it. And it gets reflected in the database. There you go, it's gone, it's not there. So this is how it is flexible and handy to communicate with the MongoDB server from Python, especially when we are using this kind of applications. And why these days MongoDB is so well known, and it's applied in many real-time applications, is it is so much similar to the JSON and JavaScript objects. And even when it comes to the server side data manipulations or data handling, there would be JSON format, and it is also JSON format behind the scenes. And it makes it so easier to work, even to import or export the JSON formats. And this is one of the very good feature which I admire with the database, that you can easily create. Say suppose we have created this, we want a JSON of this or CSV of this, and from MongoDB Compass, you can simply go there and select which collection you want and which fields you want, and select the output, and you can export it. Here, say suppose I have selected a JSON format for coach details, and I would say, okay, coach details, that is JSON format it shows, yeah, coach details collection JSON. In downloads, I'm going to say select and export.
Ramya, just a question. Sorry to interrupt. Are you also sharing the compass and the shell because we can only see the notebook? Yeah,
Um,
but I think
no,
you're.
I'm not, sorry,
Yeah,
I'm not showing the shell. I have shown the compass and the Jupyter notebook.
yeah, because I think we can only see the notebook because you're only sharing your browser rather than your whole screen.
Oh, this one?
We can only see the notebook now.
Okay, you're not able to see the MongoDB.
No.
Okay.
If you want, like, stop sharing your screen and share the whole desktop.
Um, okay. So now,
No, still.
okay. I will stop sharing, and I will share the whole desktop.
Yes, please.
Yeah, and it is showing me why. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, now we can see.
Uh, yeah. So this is the MongoDB Compass. We can visualize what we created using the Jupyter notebook. This was the one we executed, coach underscore details. Um, and this is where I was saying we can export it. This feature comes in so handy and helpful in many scenarios. We can select all the commands, all the fields we want, and say, I'm going to choose JSON because whatever data is there in the database collection, I want to export it to JSON. I'm going to use it for my API development or any use cases, any scenario I have got. So I will just select with the name I want, say, coach details, details collection, and select. Yeah, okay, replace. And I would say export and show file. Again, it's not seen. I don't know why. It's not selecting the whole
The whole screen, like
Yeah,
when you,
whole screen. I'm not getting that
it's the
option.
first one. The first option is usually screen. Next to it, you will see whiteboard and iPhone.
Yeah, now?
Yeah, okay, now we can see your entire screen, yes.
Okay, okay. So, yeah, this is where I saved it just now, what I exported from Compass, and say I want to visualize it. Here we go. This is how we get it in JSON from MongoDB Compass. We get the list of dictionaries, basically, from Python language. We get the list of dictionaries. What all we inserted in the Jupyter notebook now, we can export it to JSON. It comes in very handy in many scenarios. Now, yeah. And even CSV, same thing, we can do that. Yeah. Mm, okay. So we saw how we communicate with MongoDB using in two flavors, that is using Python with IDE and Python with Jupyter Notebook. Any questions? Sorry. And these files I have uploaded in the GitHub. You can download from this link. I can paste it once again. Yeah. Sorry, I did not realize that you were not able to see the Jupyter notebook. Apologies for that.
Yeah, we should have called it earlier, so it's not on you, don't
Yeah,
worry.
yeah. Okay. How to export data? Oops, I'm sorry. How to export data for a specific field or condition instead of whole data? Yeah. Say, where is the compass? You're able to see, right? Compass?
Yes, yes, we can see it.
Sure. Say, suppose from this collection, from this table, I want to export specific field. From here, you can click which field you don't want, which field you want. You can select from here. So suppose I can create one more JSON. This time I want to only copy ID, manager, phone number, and some fields, selected fields, yeah. And you select that and you choose, okay, um, coach details, selected, and select, and you say export and show file. And I want to visualize it. And I would say, okay, I will open it in another text editor. Here we go. We got only ID, phone number, transfer manager, whichever field we selected from the compass. It is giving us only those four fields. Hope I hope it answered your question. Yeah. Is there a reason the ID field has an underscore as the first character? Is that convention? Yes, it is a convention used in MongoDB. That is, we have to use underscore ID. Yes, it is a convention in the MongoDB. That's how it is. The data are stored in ID prefixed with underscore.
Okay, no more questions.
Yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to touch upon. And coming to the shell, if I think someone asked about shell or something, and yeah, um, okay, coming to the shell, say um, if you want to use Mongo shell, I can tell you in the a couple of scenarios. Say in with Python, this insert mini or insert one. If you want to use Mongo shell, you would use with the context, obviously, database dot collection collection dot, it's a camel case insert many. It would be this sort of changes dot insert one. Same way db dot, it becomes all the method names will become um, camel case, lower camel case, update one, and so on. I generally use with Jupyter Notebook or IDE. Mongo Shell, I wouldn't use much unless I have some troubleshooting with any other tools. If you want to start Mongo Shell, you can, once you start the server, you can go there and you can simply say, it, mine will take Anaconda by default. So I'm just deactivating it. So, and I would say Mongo. That's it. You are in the Mongo shell. Maybe I will give it a try. It will show you the databases. The commands what you use in Jupyter Notebook are Python IDE. You can use almost all the commands with shell. You can basically interact with database in three ways using the database's respective shell tool, and using backend language, or using any that database related GUI softwares, graphical user interface. Those ones you can use. Here I can say Compass is GUI, and Mongo Shell is a shell-based tool, and IDE Python with VS Code I used here. And yeah, we can even say, suppose I want to interact with MongoDB workshop. I would say, okay, that MongoDB underscore workshop database, that becomes the active database to which you can interact with it. Yeah. And I can give overview about Atlas, which for my personal projects or at home, I wouldn't use because it needs to be paid. That's the reason I could not use because I don't have a hosted server here to demonstrate. Otherwise, I could have used Google Colab. It expects hosted server to demonstrate with Google Colab. That's the reason I took up local host with community server, community based tools. In real world scenario, that's how we work. Basically, we develop in the local machine and then we test it and then we deploy it to the server. Okay. Can we achieve primary key, foreign key relationships in MongoDB? I believe it's not because it is dynamic schema and there is no join concept in MongoDB NoSQL. We have to do something called denormalization, but definitely you cannot use join in MongoDB. No, join is not available in MongoDB. Having said that, even SQL and NoSQL both have got its limitations. So that's the reason nowadays we see many applications that uses both based on the scenarios, what based on the type of applications we are using. Both SQL and NoSQL both can be used in applications. Yeah, and um, coming to I think MySQL version 5.6 onwards, even MySQL RDBMS that supports NoSQL. But we generally use MongoDB or Firebase or Cassandra, the other we mentioned in the slide earlier. Where did, yeah. So yeah, and this MongoDB, it is a tool that is really handy, especially when we work with JSON. These days, it's all API-based applications, and wherein which we use even JavaScript. Coming to full stack applications, we use JavaScript as well. So especially this JavaScript object syntax or JSON syntax that comes in very handy. And one more thing about MongoDB. MongoDB stores documents in BSON format. BSON means binary JSON. So MongoDB documents are binary format of JSON. That is another point to be noted. Coming to how behind the scenes, how the MongoDB stores the documents. That's how it is so much familiarity with the JSON format. Yeah. Um, and yeah. Um, any more questions? Okay. And yeah, summary. Today, what we covered about what is the difference between NoSQL and SQL, and we saw applications and use cases of MongoDB, and we saw its building blocks, terminologies, the difference between the terms used in SQL and NoSQL. Database is same in both type of databases, and collections in MongoDB, tables in SQL, documents in MongoDB, row or record in SQL, field or key in MongoDB, columns in SQL. That when you visualize or relate between the terminologies of both. Next, we discussed about data types, and we saw the tools available to interact with MongoDB server and its installation resources. And we saw one of the most used CRUD applications, CRUD implementations using either you can use Python scripts with Jupyter Notebook or any of the IDEs. Yeah. Let me see if there are any questions. Thank you. It's so nice to see. Thank you. If you have, by the way, if you have any questions or if you need help with any installations or information on any tools, please feel free to drop in Slack. We will be happy to answer. Thank you. Yeah, this is our Slack link. Yeah. Yeah. And
Thank you,
these
Ramya,
are
for
our,
a wonderful presentation.
thank you. These are our couple of upcoming events. I believe now you would see the time in your respective time zones. That's one thing I just realized. We have the introduction to deep learning for its devices session 4. That would be coming Saturday. And intro to data structures with Python on Thursday, and intro to deep learning on 17th, bi-weekly events. And if you would like to join our Women Who Code Python track, these are our social media channels. You can follow us along. And as I said, you can drop in the questions you have in the Slack. We will be happy to answer in Help Me channel. Our general channel will be more than happy to answer. And yeah, thank you all so much for joining. It was a pleasure giving this presentation, and yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, so I guess I will end the broadcast.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not sure how to do that.
I
Oh, yeah,
think,
and the big red button. Okay, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for joining, and thank you to Ramya again for a beautiful presentation on MongoDB.
thank you, everyone.
We hope to see you in future events. And this is a big thank you for like the entire database series events
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it's a long series and we're wrapping this one up.
yeah,
So yeah, thank you guys. I'll end the broadcast now.
yeah.
Wait, it says end meeting for all, not broadcast. Okay, just